Your indifference costs these men and women their most valuable commodity, time. It's the one thing they're running out of. They responded in 5 seconds. They did their jobs with courage, grace, tenacity, humility. 18 years later, do yours. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to MetroFocus. I'm Rafael P. Roman. Jon Stewart took Congress to task Tuesday, where he blasted a House Judiciary Subcommittee for what he called their indifference to the plight of 9/11 first responders and their families. Stewart was on Capitol Hill asking for an extension of the September 11 Victims' Compensation Fund. He was met with a near-empty podium of members of Congress, but lawmakers from both sides of the aisle said they support the bill and were monitoring the hearing amid other congressional business. The subcommittee's chair also noted that the hearing was not held before the full House Judiciary Committee. The former Daily Show host unleashed an impassioned and rage-filled plea.
I want to thank Mr. Collins and Mr. Nadler for putting this together, but as I sit here today, I can't help but think what an incredible metaphor this room is for the entire process that getting health care and benefits for 9/11 first responders has come to. Behind me, a filled room of 9/11 first responders, and in front of me, a nearly empty Congress. Sick and dying, they brought themselves down here to speak to no one. It's shameful. It's an embarrassment to the country, and it is a stain on this institution. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for those that aren't here, but you won't be. Because accountability doesn't appear to be something that occurs in this chamber. We don't want to be here. Lou doesn't want to be here. None of these people want to be here. But they are, and they're not here for themselves. They're here to continue fighting for what's right. Lou's going to go back for his 69th chemo. The great Ray Pfeiffer would come down here, his body riddled with cancer and pain, where he couldn't walk. And the disrespect shown to him and to the other lobbyists on this bill is utterly unacceptable. You know, I used to get, I would be so angry at the latest injustice that's done to these men and women. And, you know, another business card thrown our way as a way of shooing us away, like children trick-or-treating, rather than the heroes that they are and will always be. Ray would say, "Calm down, Johnny, calm down. I got all the cards I need." And he would tap his pocket. Where he kept the prayer cards of 343 firefighters. The official FDNY response time to 9/11 was 5 seconds. 5 seconds. That's how long it took for FDNY, for NYPD, for Port Authority, for EMS, to respond to an urgent need from the public. 5 seconds. Hundreds died in an instant. Thousands more poured in to continue to fight for their brothers and sisters. The breathing problem started almost immediately, and they were told they weren't sick, they were crazy. And then, as the illnesses got worse and things became more apparent, well, okay, you're sick, but it's not from the pile. And then, when the science became irrefutable, okay, it's the pile. But this is a New York issue. I don't know if we have the money. And I'm sorry if I sound angry and undiplomatic, but I'm angry. And you should be too, and they're all angry as well. And they have every justification to be that way. There is not a person here, there is not an empty chair on that stage that didn't tweet out, "Never forget the heroes of 9/11. Never forget their bravery. Never forget what they did, what they gave to this country." Well, here they are. And where are they? And it would be one thing if their callous indifference and rank hypocrisy were benign, but it's not. Your indifference costs these men and women their most valuable commodity, time. It's the one thing they're running out of. This should be flipped. This hearing should be flipped. These men and women should be up on that stage, and Congress should be down here answering their questions as to why this is so damn hard and takes so damn long. And why, no matter what they get, something's always pulled back, and they got to come back. Mr. Johnson, you made a point earlier, and it was one that we have heard over and over again in these halls, and I couldn't help but to answer to it, which was, you said, look, you know, you guys are obviously heroes, and 9/11 was a big deal, but, you know, we have a lot of stuff here to do, and, you know, we got to make sure there's money for a variety of disasters, hurricanes and tornadoes, but this wasn't a hurricane, and this wasn't a tornado, and by the way, that's your job anyway. We can't fund these programs, you can. Setting aside that no American in this country should face financial ruin because of a health issue. Certainly 9/11 first responders shouldn't have to decide whether to live or to have a place to live. And the idea that you can only give them 5 more years of the VCF because you're not quite sure what's going to happen 5 years from now, well, I can tell you, I'm pretty sure what's going to happen 5 years from now. More of these men and women are going to get sick, and they are going to die. And I am awfully tired of hearing that it's a 9/11 New York issue. Al-Qaeda didn't shout death to Tribeca. They attacked America, and these men and women, and their response to it is what brought our country back. It's what gave a reeling nation a solid foundation to stand back upon, to remind us of why this country is great, of why this country is worth fighting for, and you are ignoring them. And you can end it tomorrow. Why this bill isn't unanimous consent and a standalone issue is beyond my comprehension. And I have yet to hear a reasonable explanation for why. It'll get stuck in some transportation bill or some appropriations bill and get sent over to the Senate, where a certain someone from the Senate will use it as a political football to get themselves maybe another new import tax on petroleum, because that's what happened to us in 2015. And we won't allow it to happen again. Thank God for people like John Field. Thank God for people like Ray Pfeiffer. Thank God for all of these people who will not let it happen. They responded in 5 seconds. They did their jobs with courage, grace, tenacity, humility. 18 years later, do yours. Thank you.
Back in March, MetroFocus co-host Jack Ford had a chance to speak to Robert Talarcio Jr. and Bridget Gormley, children of first responders who succumbed to 9/11 related illnesses. Jack also spoke with attorney Michael Barish, who has represented many of the sick and dying first responders, including James Sadroga, for whom the compensation fund was named. Jack began the conversation by asking Bridget about her father and that terrible day back in September 2001.
My father was, his name is Billy Gormley, and he was a first responder firefighter, FDNY, and his company was actually the first to arrive right after the towers had fell, so he went into the thick of it. He went down there on 9/11, so he stayed there until about Christmas time with the cleanup. I didn't see him very often. He came home, showered, slept, went back, came home, showered, slept, went back. And I saw what he was covered in when he came home. I remember the smell of it, too, as a kid.
But never any reservation about going back?
No, he always went back. And in retrospect, if he was still here today, knowing what he would go through, he'd do it again. I think a lot of guys would. I don't think you would hear that. They wouldn't.
And then tell me about his diagnosis.
So he was diagnosed Christmas 2016 with bladder cancer. And then he went the course of treatment from January to April. And then in May, he got really sick. And then in June, he passed away.
Yeah, so an astonishingly fast.
It burned through him very quickly, yeah, in 6 months.
Rob, how about you? Tell me about your dad.
My father was a firefighter also. He was from Engine 266 in Rockaway Beach, and he responded to Ground Zero on 9/11 as well. And when he responded that day, he never thought it would be, it would affect him years down the line, 10, 20 years down the line. My father was diagnosed with brain cancer in the spring of 2015. And then he passed away in the fall of 2017, October 25th. And, he was 58 years old. So, he was a healthy guy, and you never thought that, something like this would happen. But then when you look back and you realize that, he was on the pile for so many weeks and months after 9/11, returning back there, that he didn't have the proper respirator or anything like that for asbestos and lead and all the other pulverized stuff that was in the air. And sadly, it took his life, so.
Michael, let me come back to you now. We talk about the fund running out of money. And some folks might say, well, we're getting close to 20 years since that horrible day and the horrible consequences. And they might say, why are there more claimants showing up now? What's the answer to that?
Well, the doctors are not surprised. We as lay people are surprised. But if you think about it, and I'm sure you were down there too covering the story, Jack, the smell, as Bridget said, it reeked down there. And notwithstanding what the EPA said about the air being safe, we knew it wasn't safe. But they wanted to reopen Wall Street, so my law firm reopened. They wanted to reopen the high schools and everything else to show everybody, oh, we're going away. We're going around all this. We're going to get through this. We're back to normal. Well, the doctors are seeing exactly what they expected now, which are not only cancers, but cancers on steroids. Really rare, aggressive cancers, and people who have multiple cancers. And that's why not a day goes by without one of my clients passing away. It's that serious. And as a result, the fund, which really has been operating very, very well, they just don't have enough money. And that's why they recently announced these cuts of 50% and 70%, which is so unfair. But I understand it. They've got to make these funds last. But that's why we were in Washington. It's why we're going back to Washington, because we've got to convince Congress to do the right thing and fulfill its moral obligation and pass and extend this fund.
I'm going to get to the bill in a second. I want all of your thoughts on it. But let me come back to something you mentioned, and that is that the doctors understand this, at least now. I mean, what people were not realizing is, everything that had to have been in the air, everything that was incinerated in those buildings was in the air.
They didn't find one phone or one computer. They only found 1/3 of the people. All that stuff, as Rob said, was pulverized. So people were breathing this toxic dust that had the pH level of Drano. And that's why we're seeing skin cancer elevated 33% compared to pre-9/11. We're seeing rampant breast cancer among women and prostate cancer among men. And as I mentioned, 68 cancers altogether, plus many respiratory problems.
Was there resistance, at least initially, to including all of these? You're talking about 68 cancers. Some of it probably have never been seen in this vicinity.
That's right.
In recent memory. Was there resistance initially to saying to people, okay, we're going to recognize that that's a consequence of this, and we were going to bring you into our fold, if you will?
Well, at the beginning, no cancers were linked. At the beginning, they just said it's just going to be respiratory problems, reactive airways disease, asthma, sleep apnea. But then the fire department medical office began to see this big uptick between 19% and 32% in all these cancers. And that was the evidence that NIOSH needed. And then finally, in 2013 and 14, that's when they added these cancers.
Tell me about the proposed legislation. What would it do?
It would fund the victim compensation fund for the rest of everybody's life so that if and when people get cancers in the future, they will be covered. If they lose their career because they can't work as a result of their cancer, they will be covered. And it's just the right thing to do.
So no ceiling? No
ending at all, because right now the health program has been rightfully extended to the rest of everybody's life. Why shouldn't the victim compensation fund?
Talk about the visit down to Washington, right? Bridget, you first. What were you all hoping to accomplish, and what did you experience down there?
I think one of the biggest issues for people that are outside of the tri-state area is that they think it's a New York problem.
Yeah.
So we're going into all these Midwestern Congress and Representatives' office, and you have to convince them that you have to tell them that they have X amount of people in their district that are in the program.
Are they surprised sometimes?
Sometimes they are. I would say so, right? I mean,
I think I saw a statistic. I might be wrong, but that there is some victim in every congressional district except one in the United States.
We don't know which one it is, but still, that's impressive, though. I mean, not impressive. It's it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So it's a national issue. I think you have to convince them of that. And these people also, these politicians, they are the biggest flag wavers sometimes. Never forget posting and tweeting.
Yeah, especially on 9/11.
On 9/11, posting and tweeting, and then when you go in there looking for help, they conveniently forget. Yeah. Never forget. It's a loose term.
I mean, it's sad that you even have to go down there. Like my father, he took about a dozen trips down to Washington, D.C. himself before he was even sick, and the last 2 times were in a wheelchair that he went down there. Just the fact that he has to go down there with terminal cancer to convince congressmen to extend this bill is so disheartening, We saw a guy that had less than 6 months to live that was down there with a terminal cancer, basically, that was in D.C. last time. And, if that doesn't speak to itself, I mean, I don't know what else could. The fact that people have to go down there and fight for their benefits to make sure that their families will be taken care of. As my family has a pending claim, many other people have pending claims that are now cut in half or will receive only 30% of what other families did, and it's just not fair, The government set up this fund so that people would not bring forth lawsuits, and now here they are, and it's like a slap in the face that you're going to get 30 or 50%. And, there's no amount of money at the end of the day that'll bring my father back, but, just knowing that my family is taken care of is what matters most and what my father would want to see. So,
did you find, Bridget, in talking with these folks, and again, it's, we've heard some people think that it's sort of a regional issue as opposed to a national issue. Did you find that you were able to change minds?
Yeah, but it took more shaming than I thought was necessary.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit of, you got to back them into a corner.
And if I can add one thing here, this is not a Democrat or Republican issue.
Oh, no.
This was incredibly Democratic toxic dust. Didn't care if you were white, black, Jewish, Catholic, Muslim. Everybody was exposed to the same toxins. Our government lied to us at first, then they did the right thing. They made us a pledge. Now we are asking, just fulfill that pledge and take care of these families.
What do you think the prospects are?
I think they're good. I don't know how any politician can look in the mirror after meeting kids like this, or young adults, sorry, and tell our first responders, hey, we made you a promise, and now we're breaking that promise. I think they're going to do the right thing like they did in 2011 and again in 2015.
When do you think that these bills might get to the floor, might come up for actual votes?
I think they're going to come up for vote right after this September 11th, probably in early October, and I think it'll pass then. And I'm certainly going to fight to make sure it happens.
Is your sense, two of you also, after the conversations you had, that...
I think so. I'm optimistic,
Currently, there's over 150 co-sponsors in the House, and then there's about 20-something co-sponsors within the Senate. And where it really is going to matter is the Senate. It would be nice to see at least 60 co-sponsors within the Senate. And the fact that it's not up there yet is why we have to go back.
You know, one advantage we have is we have so many clients, so many responders who now live in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, where they have all Republican senators. And basically, as Jon Stewart said, we need 11 more Republican senators to make this happen. And I'm going to use my clients who live in those states to be calling their legislators and say, hey, I'm a constituent. I need your help. This is not a New York issue.
Let me talk a little bit about, before we wrap up, about what you all are doing. And I know, Bridget, you've been working on a documentary.
Yes. Well, in short, it's like an elegy to my father, I felt, because the thing is with 9/11, especially for people like us, when our fathers came home, you know, we were the lucky ones. You have this issue of survivors turning into victims 2 decades later. So I didn't realize the extent of how bad it was until my father passed away, and then people started. I was thrown into a community I didn't necessarily want to be thrown into. And even there was somebody who visited my father when he was in the hospice who wasn't at the funeral, and when questioned about it, it was because he was in the hospice now. So it was just like they were, I don't want to say dropping like flies, but it was kind of devastating to think about that. So I just wanted to document this whole legal battle, the health crisis, what was done wrong, what should have been done, what did we learn from this. I just want to reshift the narrative a little bit, too, because it's not a question of what happened, it's what is happening.
And Rob, you've actually made a life decision in terms of what you're going to do with your life now.
Yeah, I mean, I took the fire department test, FDNY test, and I've already passed my written test and my physical test and medical test, and I'm set to maybe enter the fire department academy this summer.
I want to mention, by the way, you took the test, right?
Yeah.
But you also scored 18th out of 45,000.
Yeah, I got 18 out of 45,000. So, you know, it was a nice score, so I know that I should be able to get in there.
Were you inclined to do that before you lost your dad?
Originally, I was set to go to law school, which I still hope to fulfill. And, you know, I mean, with my father passed, and I definitely would like to fill his shoes and just make him proud. So, you know, I'm now going to join the fire department, and it's something that I would like to do to, you know, fulfill and just to give back, you know. So.
Michael, come back to you in terms of how these have all played out. When you first got involved in this back then, would you ever have envisioned that nearly 20 years later we'd still be talking about how can we provide something to help the people who were, so many people who were victims of this horrible event?
Yeah, you know, honestly, I'm not really surprised. My law firm is 2 blocks away from the towers. I was there the day when the tower started coming down, and I'm one of those people that you see running uptown while the fire trucks are going downtown. And I'm covered in dust also. And so I'm not surprised because I know how deadly these toxins are. I've read Jimmy Zadroga's autopsy. I see the diagnoses every single day in my law firm.
We say this often, but not often enough. It's that your dads are the ones who run directly into the danger to make sure that the rest of us are safe. And I'm sure both of them would be extraordinarily proud of what the two of you are doing. In their minds. And Michael, you've done great work. There's so many people here. Hopefully, this is going to work, and perhaps we can get you all back in again.
We'll let you know.
Down the road.
Absolutely.
And we can have a conversation about where we go now to protect people.
Thank you.
But thank you all for everything that you're doing. It was a pleasure to meet you all. You all take care now.
Likewise.
Likewise.
And for you all to learn more about how you can help the 9/11 first responders, you can visit us at metrofocus.org.